Yeah.
Chiefs at Chargers. The biggest news to come out of this game, of course, Rashee Rice carted off with an apparent knee injury. Andy Reid already said it's not good. Patrick Mahomes, after the game, spoke specifically about the injury to Rashee Rice. Take a listen.
I didn't know exactly what happened because obviously I was trying to make the tackle, but I know Rashee and how tough he is. So him being down like that, I knew it wasn't good. All we can do is pray that the X-rays in my eyes and stuff like that are better than what it looked. But next man up until he's back.
Just a brutal injury. There's no way around
The
it.
whole thing
For
was
a guy that's
awful.
been a fantasy superstar this year.
He's been nothing short of fantastic. I mean, he's again, like I was in a guillotine league draft. You can draft all along with guillotines, and I was in a guillotine league draft the other week, and Rashee Rice won in the first round. I mean, like he was a top 5 fantasy wide receiver.
That person's chopped.
And no question.
Adios.
There were a lot of tough performances yesterday from big name stars. Rice's zero being one of them as well. He was the second best wide receiver in fantasy points per game leading into this game. This is top 2 fantasy wide receiver, and there was nothing that you thought would stop that. And so, just a brutal play all around. By the way, bad throw by Mahomes. Like he overthrows the guy. So if he just doesn't throw that, you know what I mean. And then feels like Patrick's saying he's trying to make a tackle. He went low. Like it didn't. It's a brutal loss for Rashee Rice. Here's the thing that I will say: if there's no positives here. And by the way, we're taping this on Monday morning. We don't know the extent. By the time you see this show, we may very well have news on the results of the MRI that he's getting today and whether he is going to miss the rest of the season, whether he's just going to miss significant time, or maybe it was just a scare. We all are hoping for the best as you see the video here of this play. I don't want to get into the Mahomes thing, but I'll just say this. For the Chiefs, last year, Rashee Rice didn't play more than 60% of the snaps until week 8. So the fact of the matter is that Rashee Rice, the first half of the season, which last year was his rookie year, he was a part-time player. He only knew part of the route tree. And so they started expanding it week by week. And that's, I think, is ultimately what's going to happen with Xavier Worthy. That's the only chance they have. Now, I'm sure they'll kick the tires on some potential trades, we were talking last night. Florida was asked about Devontae Adams. Would Mark Davis trade him in the division?
I don't think so.
Doesn't feel like he would, but you never know. Yeah, I mean, and you see Noah Gray there. Could they go to more 2 tight end sets? Could they try to go more 12 personnel? What will happen here is that they're just going to mix and match. But I think that with the exception of Travis Kelce and maybe the running back, we'll get into it, I don't believe, until Xavier Worthy shows some consistency, I don't believe there is a fantasy relevant player that you feel good about week in, week out on the Chiefs, with the exception of Travis Kelce because of how bad tight end is, right? And we saw a nice game from him yesterday finally. Other than Kelce, and maybe the running back if you're desperate. And Worthy should be rostered in every league. But other than that, and by the way, I include Patrick Mahomes in that statement.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I think combos, yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be. It's a similar spot to last year where Patrick Mahomes was, by the end of the season, when he was struggling so much to put up production, there was just no explosive element. Now, he does have Xavier Worthy this season for more of an explosive element, but yeah, I mean, there are going to be weeks where you're starting Geno Smith over Patrick Mahomes, starting Baker Mayfield over Patrick Mahomes. Do you think, Connor, that Worthy can expand his route tree enough to replicate anything that Rice did in the second half last year, understanding the different players?
No, not this year, personally, just being honest. Look at how they used Rashee Rice. We talked about this a lot on the show, how he was almost used as a tight end with how tightly they'd play him to the formation, and then they just have him run a shallow cross or a slant in the middle of the field. Because if Kelsey's getting a lot of attention, well, then the other side is going to be open. So that's not Xavier Worthy. Yeah. Xavier Worthy's 160 pounds. He can run like the wind. He's going to have some big plays. He's going to have some big weeks for you here and there. But I think you're going to funnel 9 to 10 targets through Xavier Worthy. It's not happening. It's not.
I know. That's the concern. And so I think what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to grind it out. They're going to have to. They were lucky to win that game against the Chargers, and that was a Chargers team that had no Joe Alt, that had no Rashawn Slater, that had no Joey Bosa, that had Justin Herbert on half a leg.
Right.
They barely beat the Chargers, and so I want to wrap this up on Mahomes. I know we're going long here, but I think this is important. This is now since the start of last year. So we've got a 20-game sample size. Since the start of last season, Patrick Mahomes, on a points-per-game basis, is QB 13. Like, in a 12-team league, Patrick Mahomes is not a starter. Like, since the start of last year. This isn't like, he's had a couple of bad games. Like, since the start of last year, it is now, going back to last year, it is now 9 straight games below 17 fantasy points for Patrick Mahomes. And I get it. He is as brilliant a man to play the position as has ever existed in the NFL. He's unbelievable, right? Like, he does things that are just like, whoa. But, like, from a fantasy perspective, like, the production just hasn't been there. And now, without Pacheco, without Rashee Rice, I just don't see a scenario where he suddenly turns that around and becomes the fantasy superstar that he was earlier in his career, because they're not going to want to increase the snaps of Travis Kelce. They're still 4-0. They're still first place in the division. Right. They still want a three-peat Super Bowl, and so they still need to manage Travis Kelce's snaps. And, like, you know, like, they'll piece it together. Andy Reid's as good a coach as there is in the history of the NFL. But just in terms of for our purposes, it's hard to see, like, yeah, well, we know we can go there for consistent fantasy production.
Yep. Just quickly, if there's one Chiefs running back you want, who is it?
I think it's Kareem Hunt.
Yep, I agree.
You know, I mean, that's the one thing. Listen, Carson Steele had a bad fumble early in the game.
Again?
Kareem Hunt, yeah, I mean, he did as well. Feels like, you know, quickly on Kareem Hunt, he got a 10% target share. He got 67% of the team's running back touches. He got 2 of the 3 red zone touches as well. I do still think it's going to be a running back by committee. They do weird stuff, but if you're the highest ranked Chiefs running back I'll have next week will be Kareem Hunt. As you see it there on your screen as well. P. Ryan did get the touchdown, but Hunt had been in for the previous couple of plays. He'd gotten a couple of chances at it, didn't get in, so they brought P. Ryan in. He punches it in, but ultimately, I think Kareem Hunt his emergence is more of a hurt to Carson Steele than it is to Samaje Perine, which is one of the reasons why when we were talking back when the Pacheco injury happened, we liked Perine a little bit more than Steele because we thought his role was safer. But yes, to your point, if you're starting a Chiefs running back next week, it's Kareem Hunt. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.